Trolling crankbaits on Leadcore is a surefire way to catch summertime walleye. Let's join Jon for the lowdown on putting together a system that works.
There's a fish right there. One thing about when I'm pulling Leadcore line, the big thing about it is, number one, I'm pulling cranks because I want to cover ground, because the fish are more scattered out. But let's talk while I'm bringing this fish in about how Leadcore line works. For every color of Leadcore that I let out, and each color is 30 feet long, for every color I let out, it will sink 5 feet at 2 miles an hour. Now that's all gonna depend on the speed you're going, okay? So now, right now, I'm going 2.2, 2.1, somewhere in that neighborhood. Good walleye to start. So what I'm doing is I'm running just a little more Leadcore line, because I know that right now I'm a little higher up because of the fact that I'm going a little faster, okay? So that's one of the things you want to look at right away is get a baseline set speed-wise at 2 miles an hour. Once you set that baseline for yourself at 2 miles an hour, you can go a little faster, know you got to let out a little bit more line. If you slow down a little bit, you're going to see it all of a sudden start popping bottom a little bit, and then you're going to know you got to let out a little less line. Now, one of the things I'll tell you is, I get asked every now and then, well, geez, can't you give us more detail about the exact amount of line you got out? Great walleye right there. Here's the truth of the matter. No, it won't help you, because that's where the daily adjustment comes in. So ultimately, if I see that lure bang bottom just a little bit and I'm going 2.1, I can't give you an exact amount of line to have out, okay? I can get you in that neighborhood based on looking at the number of colors of lead you have out there. Then you got to make those small adjustments. Couple things I'll tell you though, okay? Number one, I'm using line counters because I can always replicate within a foot of line what I'm doing. But the other thing I'm going to tell you is every line counter is a little bit different. So my buddy Pat Birch and I, we talk a fair amount about different bites we got going on. And he might say to me, well, gee, Jon, I'm running 180 feet with a bandit walleye shallow in 28 feet of water. And I might try to run that same 180 feet, and it's a little bit different because every line counter is a little bit different. It all depends on how big the spool is as far as how much line you got on it and this and that. So you can't always just count on an exact number. So there's no real way to be dead on super precise and tell you today for sure if you come and fish 30 feet of water, you want to run 180 feet. It's going to depend on the lure, how much extra dive you got. It's going to depend on your speed. If you're about a 0.1, a 0.2 above that 2 miles an hour, it's going to change. So you got to look at all these little variables. But getting in the neighborhood by counting your colors of lead, knowing you're dropping 5 feet per color at 2 miles an hour, and then making the adjustments is the key. I like pulling big stick baits when I'm pulling Leadcore. One of the reasons for that is actually not what you would think. Number one is if fish are biting bigger stick baits, they're a more aggressive bait. It's a little bit bigger bait. I always feel it gives me a better shot at a big fish, but I'm gonna tell you something. When you look at like the rogues I'm pulling from Smithwick or the bandits that I'm pulling, they all have 3 hooks, and with Leadcore, you have this big sag in the line as it sinks. So when these fish come up and hit it, the more hooks you got down there, the better chance you got that that fish is gonna get hooked up and stay hooked up. Less hooks you got down there, the less chance you got. Well, with these 3 hooks, a lot of times when that fish hits it, he'll get 1 or 2 sets of trebles in his mouth, but he'll also get another set of trebles somewhere else in him. You don't lose many fish if you do that. Pull a bigger bait like this with more hooks. You definitely end up converting on your bites a heck of a lot more often, and that's a big reason why so often you see me pulling bigger baits. This is a nice fish. And here's a great example right here. You know, he's got a couple hooks in his mouth. Ooh, look at that. Kind of got messed up with my net going out to get him, but we got him. But he's also got a set of hooks down underneath his mouth. There's no doubt about it. We had him hooked and had him hooked good. Look at that. Another awesome Leadcore trolling walleye. Get that gill out of there. I kind of popped his gill in there. Look at that. That's an awesome fish. All day long, man. That is fun. There's one right there. Got him. You'll notice I don't ever hold the rod when I'm pulling Leadcore. Here's the deal, it's just gonna get pretty hard on you. It's heavy because you got all that weight from that line, and Leadcore's got a lot of bow in it going down. When I say bow, I mean the line goes like this, back to the lure. So when you put it in a rod holder, a lot of times that fish will hit it, the fish will pull the bow out of the line, and then all of a sudden you'll see them. And because I'm in the rod holder, I'm solid right there when the fish starts pulling, and the hook 9 times out of 10 sets itself. I mean, it's that easy. There's no such thing as setting the hook, but what I mean is when you hook up, they're hooked up. I mean, they're not gonna come out because all of a sudden that boat comes out of the line, you're going 2 miles an hour, and it gives them a good solid hook set right there. One thing I want you to notice about the equipment I'm using, look at that, got himself unhooked. Right there, perfect. Look at that, how perfect is that, man? I mean, we're just crushing them. This is easy fishing. You couldn't do this Lindy rigging right now though. You could not do it spinnering. You're just not covering enough ground. So ultimately what we're doing here is covering ground. But one of the things I want you to notice when we talk about equipment for Leadcore, the lures are the most important part in my opinion. Once you understand exactly where your depth is and you find fish, putting lures down there is a big deal, but I do a lot of changing of colors, okay? And I'll even change different actions as well. So like this one here is a bandit walleye shallow. Again, perfect Leadcore bait. It's got that small little bill, but you can see I caught some fish on Fire Tiger today, and I've gone to something a little bit different with this purple. I do a lot of color changing when I'm pulling Leadcore. I do it all day long, especially when I'm by myself, because it's harder to get dialed in because you don't got people with you to run different colors. But man, I'll tell you what, you definitely want to have a variety of baits with you that run a little bit different. If you got that Rogue out there that I was catching some fish on earlier, it's running a little bit tighter. This Bandit is a little bit wider. That Rogue is going to have a little lesser rattle to it, a little lighter rattle. This has got a big, deep, heavy rattle. So one of the things I do is a lot of switching around of crankbaits, but not just colors of the same bait, often different baits overall to put a different action down there and a different noise. There's one right there. That's what you get for not paying attention. Oh yeah, it feels like good walleye. You know, I get asked often why I use such long rods when I'm doing this. A couple reasons. One, if I was on 2-line water, which a lot of places you control 2 lines, I would have one out each side. If I had another person with me, I'd have one out each side, and then I'd have 2 straight over the back. They spread me out a little bit away from the boat, but let me tell you the other thing they do. When you look at me fighting this fish in the wind and the waves, it gives me a lot of shock absorber because down in that tip, it's very soft and it's long. So when that fish tries to fight and go back the other way on me, there he is on the surface, good eye. When he tries to fight and go the other way though, I've got a lot of shock absorber, and that's what you want. You don't want to be at a point where you have no shock absorber, because if you do get there, here's what happens. A lot of times these fish, they'll make one move and get off. Here's the other reason right here. See with that long rod, how I was able to pull that fish to the net? If I had a short little rod, there's no way I could get that fish to move that far on that pull. And this fish was hooked in the back hook. So you really, I mean that quick, he's unhooked. you really wouldn't have wanted to take a chance at this fish getting a chance to fight coming into that net. You want to be able to just ski them in, and with that longer rod, we're able to just give them a pull, and that fish is in the boat, in the net, and then in the boat. That's awesome. Hey man, Leadcore is an awesome way to fish. It's an awesome way to troll crankbaits. And if you put all of this together, you can go out and you can do this. The idea is get in the neighborhood with the colors, okay, as far as your depth. And then from there, make your small adjustments based on speed, the lures you're running, and the depth at which the fish are. And if you put all that together, I'm telling you, it is such an efficient way to troll cranks and catch fish. And we've done this morning in just a couple hours, and I'm fishing one line by myself. It's all about getting in the right spot. If you can get your bait in the right spot, you're gonna catch a lot more fish. Get out and pull some Leadcore. Get the right equipment, go out and do this. I'm telling you, you'll absolutely love it.